Good morning, friends. Okay, so today we are going to do Unit 2, Lesson 4, which is going to look at parent functions. So you should go to Modules, open up the module here to Unit 2, Lesson 4, open your journal slide, and then copy and paste this into your journal. So if you need to, pause the video and go do that. Okay, so we are looking at parent functions. So parent functions, I zoomed in here. You might have to zoom in on yours. Parent functions, when we're talking about linear functions, it's going to be the straight line. This is what our parent function looks like. And this is an equation for our parent function. Y equals mx plus b is the general standard form. This is slope-intercept form. And a linear function is a straight line. Straight line, there we go. And it goes through the origin. Okay, so it's a straight line that goes through the origin. So this unit we've talked about domain and range. So I want to look at the domain for this parent function. So my straight line, if you look really, really close, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. You can see there's little tiny arrows on the top and bottom of this line. All of these have arrows on the ends of them. Okay, so there's an arrow here. Let me zoom back out. So my domain, we go left to right. So on the leftmost point, we'll have an arrow. It's going to keep going forever and ever. And I have on the right, I have another arrow. So my domain here is, oops, I'm just going to delete these things out because I don't really need those symbols. My domain is all real numbers. All real numbers. My range is bottom to top. So on the bottom, well, at the bottom of this, I've got another arrow. It's going to keep going. At the top, I've got another arrow. It's going to keep going. So again, I don't need these symbols. We can say my range is all real numbers. Okay, so linear functions are straight lines. This is what we're going to go into in our next unit. Linear functions, we're going to look at the equation y equals mx plus b. They're straight lines. They go through the origin. Do we remember this is the origin right here, 0, 0? So our domain for our parent function of straight lines is all real numbers. Our range is all real numbers. So this means our parent function is always going to have arrows on the ends, okay? Next, we have quadratics. We're also going to learn about quadratics this year. Quadratics, the general form is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, and we'll learn more about that after Christmas. So this graph has a U shape to it. It's a U-shaped graph for quadratics, and it sits at the origin. It sits on the origin. So it sits right here. The lowest point of this graph is at 0, 0 for the parent function. So my domain, we go left to right. So on the left-hand side, I've got an arrow. It's going to keep going. On the right-hand side, I've got another arrow. It's going to keep going. So my domain, I don't need any of this, is going to be all real numbers. My range, however, I do have a bottom to this graph, right? This graph sits right here. And we said it sits right on the origin. So my lowest y value here is 0. And then if I come up to the top, from bottom to top for range, the top up here has arrows, so it's going to keep going. So I'm just going to erase this other symbol. I don't need it. We're just going to go from 0 all the way up. It's going to keep going forever and ever and ever. This inequality symbol here tells us that we're talking about all of the y values that are bigger than 0. So that means from 0 all the way up the y-axis, this line is going to keep going forever. Okay? Our next function that we'll be looking at this year is exponential functions. And we'll probably look at these around spring break, maybe right after spring break. So exponential functions have this backwards L shaped, right? They have this backwards L shape. And they go through, if we notice, it goes through the point 0, 1. Goes through that point 0, 1 right here. Every time the parent function. This is the parent function. This is what it looks like. Okay. So my domain is left to right. Well, on the left-hand side, I've got an arrow. On the right-hand side, I've got an arrow. So this is going to be all real numbers. My range is bottom to top, and we don't really see this, but if we could get really, really close, we'll notice that this line never goes below 0. It's never going to touch 0, okay? It's going to keep getting closer and closer and closer to the x-axis, but it's never actually going to touch it. And we'll talk more about what that's called and why that happens later on in the year. But we're going to say that this is never going to go below 0, and it's not equal to because it's never going to actually touch 0. And then on the top, so from bottom to top, the lowest it's going to go is almost to 0, but without touching 0. And it's going to go up forever and ever and ever. This arrow means it's going to keep going forever and ever. So I don't even need to write anything else on the end of that. So these are your notes. Make sure you get them in your journal and update them. If you do not see me at class today, then all we've done is ask questions and answer questions about domain and range. So if you have any questions, make sure you get on with me from 10:30 to 12, and I will be more than happy to answer them. All right, see you later.